Who y'all? It's hot, but we need to come out here and get some sun. So that's what we're gonna do. Might as well record a video because we will not be out here long. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. I want to start with a memory because I think when we think about people's lenses and how they see the world, it's all about their positionality. Your positionality is all about all of your different identities, all your different privileges, marginalizations, all of those things working together, and that's how you like view the world. That's how you're coming to any, situation, basically, right? So I want to tell a couple stories this week. One story that, like, it's still like one of those like core memories for me. Um, this was a time when we were in Germany, and my dad was in the military. Thank you for your service. He did 23 years in the army. Um, we Dad was at a position by the time because I was a late baby, so by the time I came along, he was pretty high up, and he could ask to live off base whenever he got stationed somewhere. So usually every time we moved, we'd be on base for like maybe a month, and then we were off base. So this particular memory is at this beautiful house, and God, I wish I had like architectural photos or just photos of each of the rooms. But we were the first tenants. It was like our second off base space, maybe third actually. Now that I think about it, maybe there were two before this one, but this was the one that we were at the longest. We were there for like 2 years, 2.5 years of our time there, and so anyway, by then I had made friends with other. It was a small German village. We were the only Americans. My dad and I were the only African Americans, and I had a blast. I was all over that little like village town. I mean, it was small. It was very small. Even as a kid, I could see it was very small. Dad had to remind me that it had a pub because every place in Germany had a pub somewhere. I didn't know that as a kid. And there was a little kindergarten, and then there were like, there was a playground, and there was like a bakery, but like that was like it really as far as like stores or things. Like it was a very, very small village. It's a very small town. And so we were the first tenants in this house. And my stepmom had known German. This was her second time living in Germany. So she was able to help, speak and do the things when we were traveling and doing things in country. And I was learning. I learned, some basics. If you didn't know this, here's my first side quest. If you didn't know this about military kids or military bases, if you have a friend that's a military kid and they say that they have gone abroad because of their parents working with the U.S. military, the bases have schools, and so we are still taught an American and in English curriculum. It's to help for those who are moving throughout their entire, K through 12 years, so that they can still have, the semblance of an American educational system, so that it's easier for them to like go into college and to migrate to different schools. So like when we do go back to United States, it's easy to transition back. And so there is the unfortunate part then that there's not then you're not in a German school, right? You're not having to like strictly learn the language so that you can be in school and things of that nature, which I get it, because some people have different terms when they're abroad, when they're stationed abroad. It's not feasible. So I get it. So all of the German that I was learning was like on my own with my stepmom, and just like in these villages, in these smaller towns, like on our own, not through school. And so, yeah, we'd been there, like a year at that point. I think I was like 8, maybe going on 9. And my stepmom was out for whatever reason. And it was just me and my dad at the house. And someone came knocking on our door. Now, I knew it probably wasn't. I had to actually call my dad and like ask him to help me with remembering this memory, because I was like, I knew it wasn't the landlord people, because they did all their transactions like online or whatever, and we pretty much saw them when we moved in and when we moved out. Like that they didn't come by a lot. So I knew it like wasn't them. So I was like, Dad, who came by that random day when stepmom was out, and and so like because they were trying to ask us something, they were trying to like get information from us, and I was trying to figure out like what what was going on. Like I tried to talk to the person in my short broken German that probably sounded ridiculous at 9 years old, 8 years old or whatever. And Dad, bless his heart, like I think he tried to learn as well. But, he's working and he's out. He be gone to the field for weeks at a time, and so we had relied heavily on my stepmom for when we did go out and travel and those exchanges and stuff. So I tried my best, and I do think it was one of those situations. Like I don't think I answered the door. I bet Dad answered the door because I mean, as a kid, you answer the door, strangers walking up in your house. And I think he asked me. I think he like asked me to come over to see if I could help because he knew I was like trying to learn. Um, and and so like I said, I think I tried like in my broken German that probably sounded awful. Um, and and when I realized that we just couldn't get beyond like the basics, and like they were like I said, trying to ask us something or whatever like that, and this was before the age of cell phones. Jesus, I don't even know if we had I guess we had a house phone in that house in Germany. I don't even know how that worked now that I think about it. No, yeah, we did because I was able to call my sister every blue moon and pay those international fees. Anyway, um, so but we didn't have the internet like accessible on our phones at that point. Like, that wasn't a thing yet. Um, and but I remembered, as I'm trying to learn German and stuff, we had one of those thick. It was like pocket-ish size, purse sized, German to English, English to German dictionaries, like all in one. And so I like kind of gave him like the universal like just wait, like hold on, just wait a second, and I like ran and left to go find this dictionary, came back and was like flipping, I like showed it to them like, okay, we're gonna flip through it. So like they're like looking over my short, I'm already short, so even shorter self, looking through this dictionary, trying to like find words and piece together something. And yeah, Dad says that he thinks it was someone, one of the townsfolk, coming by to ask a question because they were hosting my birthday party open to the folks in the town, like anybody could come. I don't know if it was like my last birthday. I don't know if we knew by then if it was gonna be my last birthday in the city or in the country rather. But they had decided like we were gonna do this big thing for my birthday that year, and he says that he thinks like someone was coming over to ask about like if they need to bring food or things of that to help with the party, which is really sweet. God, that's so sweet. Um, and so I tell that story because and that memory means a lot to me, like especially having like later like grown up and like got a degree in linguistics. Like that was one of those like core memories that I have because it was me as this kid. Like yes, I defaulted to authority and like to my to my parent and the other person, but like when they couldn't figure it out, I tried to figure it out and they let me. And I think that's really cool, right? Like I was able to create this bridge of communication, brokenly, not imperfectly, right? But like word by word, we kind of figured out, what they were asking and what was trying to, happen. And yeah, I just like have been thinking about that and thinking about how one of the kind of pieces of me, not only did that then lead into like one of my reasons of like, becoming a linguistics major, um, but it was also this idea of like I was capable of creating this bridge even as a kid, um, through communication. Um, and I don't know, that was just such a good like memory and like such a core memory situation. And it just made me think of all the other ways that I try to tie in like communication and just bridging gaps through all of my different interests, right? The linguistics, the anthropology, project, program management, art, traveling, language learning, real estate, gardening, like just all of the things. And it was just like all these things, it's about figuring out that bridge of the gap. I feel like I'm like shuffling cards, when you make that bridge, when you're shuffling cards, making the bridge of the gap, and finding the right tools to do that thing with, right? There's been other situations later, like when I was in Korea and, still trying to learn Korean. And now, thankfully, at this point, we did have smartphones and internet on the phones, and at that point in Korea I had 5G before that even came to the States, which was an interesting like experience to have. And so for me in the real world, I say, not just like in a classroom, but I say there's no such thing as cheating. You use the resources and the tool that you have. So was I using the Google Translate camera feature where I could pop it up on, they would have ads in the subway, and I just pop my phone up and have it translate so I could figure out what they're advertising in the subway because I was bored. But I don't know, just using my skills, like I said, of bridging those gaps, using tools, figuring it out, making those connections, and it's like that is one of those thorough lines. That's the way I see the world, and I problem solve is by finding what is the gap, what can be the bridge to the gap, what tools are there to help in that, because at the end of the day, just the problem needs to be solved. And as long as we're remaining ethical about it, there's no cheating in the real world. It's get it done with what you got, right? And so yeah, I just thought that this was just one of those like I said, key moments, connecting that together, and when I'm giving myself this permission to be, I don't know, just taking these days and this challenge to like reflect and think on those moments of like, how did I get here? How can I continue to move forward? And it's these things, right? It's looking through what is my lens, what's my prescription of lens, right? And that's the way that I'm viewing the world, and I'm connecting the dots, and it's utilizing my instinct, right, to do that. Yeah. So I just want to like pose this question to you of, if you're trying to give yourself permission to be you, think back in your past. Think about when you were a kid, and what was one of those small moments that, even if it wasn't a core memory, and maybe not even necessarily a defining moment, maybe you had several moments, but what was one? What was one of those moments that you're like, man, that was one of those things that led me to who I am today, and how can I give that little person more permission to just be them?